Why the hell Warcraft doesn't feel like Warcraft anymore, Jesus. You know this video is going to be good when it starts with Wrath of the Lich King.
Warcraft's story used to have teeth. It felt complex, filled with characters whose motives were layered and whose histories partially remained obscured. It was dark, it was mysterious, and it was very cool. These days, it far too often feels like the writers are terrified that we might...
Bro, who conjured this crap up? What in God's name am I looking at? What is this? What are we doing here? Is this like, imagine showing this frame to a WoW player from 2005. What the? It doesn't even look like the same game anymore. Is this a dragon? This supposed to be a cool dragon? What the hell? This looks like something you'd find in Hello Kitty Online. I mean, oh my god, it's so cringe.
Misunderstand any part of the story. Every character's motivations, every villain's agenda, and every emotional beat is explained to an almost dumbfounding degree. Entire story arcs feel as though they were written for a high school English project. No nuance, no depth, just an over-sanitized mess. And lo and behold, many of the core characters within the Warcraft universe have lost their luster along with this. This falls well outside my usual competitive Mythic Plus.
How many male characters have we seen on screen until now? Literally what, like one balding old dude? Like that's it? Right? Have you noticed a pattern here? This game isn't for men anymore. This game is long gone. And by the way, this game isn't for women either. It's for nobody. Nobody plays that game, except for bots and a few whales who are too addicted to quit.
Content, but it is something that I care very deeply about. Today, I want to discuss where I believe World of Warcraft's narrative direction has taken a wrong turn, and what needs to change if Blizzard is ever going to give Warcraft its grip back again. Why do I even care about WoW's narrative? Hell, why should this matter to anyone other than the massive lore nerds? The thing is, from the beginning of Warcraft to the present day, I don't think that the gameplay alone was ever the primary driver of its success. Instead, I think the immersive world that the gameplay occurred within was part of it. I am currently a multi 0.1% title level Mythic Plus player. I spend
my condolences.
The majority of my time hyper-optimizing and engaging almost exclusively with dungeon content. And while I love the game mode itself, one of the biggest things that gives it meaning is the world that Mythic Plus belongs to. If I wanted to run dungeons and nothing else, I would go play Fellowship or something, but I don't. In fact, I genuinely could not care less about that game. The true beauty of WoW is that my accomplishment...
Also, Fellowship is such a pale imitation of WoW Mythic Plus. It's not as fun, and also you can't even customize your character. Like, brother, I wanted to play a tank in this game, and they forced me to play an old lady with a scar on her face. I don't want to play an old lady. I want to play a big, buff, brown dude, because that's who I aspire to be. And you forcing your propaganda crap upon me, it's not going to fly, Chief. Like, nobody wanted to play a lady monk tank. Like, people want to play a big, burly dude that can smack some gnomes around. It's so laughably cringe, but again, whenever I saw who made this game, I knew it was bound to fail.
Exist within a persistent fantasy world. The dungeon is not just a collection of mechanics and enemies, it is a place within Azeroth. So when that world begins changing from a deep and engaging fantasy setting to an over-sanitized and quite frankly childish narrative mess, it upsets me. I want to give Blizzard the benefit of the doubt. I want to believe that they are attempting to dig us out of some...
Never give Blizzard the benefit of the doubt, because they will give none to you. Always crack hard down on them. Always double up on the just criticization of Blizzard, because they deserve no less. They have messed us up for... Oh, shit! Wait, what? Subbed with Prime, Nox, thank you so much, man. Okay, that kind of took me by surprise. Thank you so much, brother. For the sub. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And, damn, what I was about to say, you took me off that, dude. I'm such a dumb person. Whenever I speak of something, I get so tunnel-visioned and insta-locked on that. Whenever I get distracted, I just completely lose the plot. What was I talking about again? Was I talking about... Oh, yeah, never give any leniency to Blizzard. They just suck. They don't really care about you. All they care about is their next quarterly update. They're not doing anything but except corrupt and destroy our game, making it for modern audience that doesn't exist. And, you know, they think we're Concord Andes. And all they deserve is to fail. Because Blizzard has done nothing good for us. Nothing.
Narrative rut that it's been trapped in for years, but some of the writing lately has been absolutely asinine.
Bruh.
Some people will hear this criticism and assume that I'm complaining about the politics of modern Warcraft. I'm not. Honestly.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Don't ever. This is a false narrative. This is a false narrative that they try to manufacture en masse because they want people like us to be seen as the aggressors and the one who are the true evil overlords, and we need to be casted out. It's an excuse for them to ostracize us. Never fall for that bait. Never fall for that trap. And you know what makes me laugh the hardest? The fact that all of this is coming back to bite them in the ass. This entire apparatus and false narrative they worked for over 5 or 6 years at this point is collapsing, and we're going to come out on top soon. Normality is coming back. Common sense is now the king, and we need to make sure that whenever we're on top, we create an infrastructure in which these weirdos can never consolidate power ever again or be put in a position of influence. Because whenever we see them having any modicum of power whatsoever, they immediately abuse it to silence everyone else. And as true freedom of speech Andes, we can never allow this to happen. I'm not saying silence them. I'm not against silence. I'm not for silencing anyone, but we should make sure that we will not be able to silence anyone ever again. Everyone's voices should be heard, and every voice is important. Well, to be fair, some voices are stupid, but they still should be heard, at least in my opinion.
I don't give a fuck about that debate, and I'm not interested in turning this video into that. What bothers me though is Blizzard's increasing refusal to leave anything beneath the surface of the story.
Oh, Andrew's crying again?
The most compelling characters in fantasy
Classic.
are rarely the ones who have every motivation and emotion and piece of their history explicitly explained to the audience. I'm an emotion.
Damn, bro, that's crazy. It's like they made this character with the idea in mind of tokenizing the shit out of her. That's insane. I mean, missing an arm, missing an eye, like, what is that? All of the features that constitutes, you know, the how do you call it? Like the DEI bingo. They just mark that shit up. Like, that just, ding.
And piece of their history explicitly explained to the audience. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings nerd, and I think Sauron demonstrates this perfectly. Within the central story of Lord of the Rings, he is presented as an ancient and overwhelming power, you know, concealed in shadow, capable of corrupting the will of others, and consumed by a desire to dominate all of Middle-earth. But for those who choose to dig deeper, there is an enormous amount of history behind him. Sauron was originally a Maiar with an intense fixation on order and a hatred of chaos that made him vulnerable to corruption from the first Dark Lord Morgoth, and gradually transformed his desire from one of wanting to organize the world into a desire to completely control it. The important thing is that the main story doesn't stop and explain all of that to us. The depth exists.
Yeah, wait, we had characters without arm, eyes, etc., and they used to be special characters for other things, not because they're lacking body parts. Exactly. You hit the nail right on the head there. And whenever these characters lost something, it was meaningful. Whenever Bolvar Fordragon was literally cooked alive, it's because Ace stood against Arthas in the Wrathgate. That's why it was so important, right? But now we have Khadgar. Khadgar, the strongest, most powerful mage in Azeroth existence, is in a goddamn arcane wheelchair. He couldn't conjure anything cool to fly on, no. It had to be a wheelchair. Can you imagine how insanely stupid you must be to write something like this? It's so stupid. Oh my god. Like, why are we taking strong characters and making them weak? Why are we trying to lower the standards of important lore characters, or any characters at that matter, to our standards? We as humans should aspire to become something greater than ourselves. We should do better for society. We should do better for our close friends and relatives. we should look at World of Warcraft characters as an as someone to aspire to. Okay, that's what we need to do. They need to be role models, but instead of being role models, they became you. I don't want to be me. It's like the same type of people who forces you to make your character ugly. Like, bro, I don't want to be ugly inside of a video game. I'm already ugly in real life. I want to be someone a little bit better than myself. I want someone to be someone I can aspire to. It's so stupid, but these weirdos would never get it, man. Like, it's insane. Oh, look who's live now? What's up? How do you do, Jimby? And Illidan was dope. Illidan did nothing wrong. Bro was wrongfully imprisoned for 10,000 years. He just wanted to repel an invasion. He took a little bit of dark magic, and suddenly he's the bad guy? Come on, dog. Like, what are we talking about here?
But it's not forced down our throat. And Sauron is not morally ambiguous either. He is fundamentally evil. A villain can be unmistakably evil and still feel layered. Warcraft's most memorable characters have historically worked in similar ways. Illidan, Arthas, Garrosh, Deathwing.
None of them are villains. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Listen, I can consolidate a little bit of ground that maybe... Nah, you know what? Screw you guys. I won't consolidate. I won't give you anything. Garrosh did nothing wrong. Arthas did nothing wrong. Illidan did nothing wrong. If anyone think otherwise, you're permabanned.
Old gods. They all carried histories and motivations and contradictions.
Wait, am I the villain? Nah.
That were not constantly verbalized. Not every element of their character was neatly explained, and that gave a sense of mystique. We were allowed to interpret them for ourselves. Modern WoW far too often does the opposite. Every motivation is explained. Every emotion is labeled. Every moral dilemma arrives with a correct interpretation that's attached to it. Rather than allowing emotion to emerge through performance, the story will brute force it until there is nothing left for the audience to discover.
It's like the same people who explain their jokes. Brother, if you have to explain your joke, it's trash. You don't need to say, oh, I'm mad right now because X happened. No, you just need to show and portray that the character is currently mad because X happened. You don't need to say things. You never need to say anything because it's too on the nose. It just takes away all the excitement. It takes away all the understanding. But Blizzard at this day and age just thinks all of their crowd are a bunch of Boglomites that can't understand anything on their own. So it's just insanely stupid. Yeah, can you imagine the excitement in the writing room when somebody came up with a wheelchair idea? It's like, no, man. I imagine a council of Karens, all of them with like random variety of rainbow color hair dyes, just sitting at the round table, and they're like, oh, you know what? I think we should give him a wheelchair. And everyone's like, oh, what? Oh my, I nearly spilt my tuna salad. Oh my God, that's genius, Mary. Oh my days. And at the same time, maybe Anduin should cry about it. Oh man, that must have been lovely. You're right. Yeah, most of the villains of Warcraft did it to protect folks. Exactly. I mean, nowadays, nobody can write a good villain. And that's a huge problem because nowadays, like, oh, you're the villain. Okay, you must do something that is unanimously evil. Everyone agrees on it. And it's like, oh, yeah, you're just a bad guy for the sake of being the bad guy. There's no layers to this. There's no logic whatsoever. I mean, take the recent villain, Zelatath. Do we even know her motives? No, she's kind of goes in looking like a 50-year-old Californian mom after 20 different plastic surgeries, showing her feet off, and, you know, some nerds on Reddit are excited for that. And she doesn't say anything. She just do evil stuff because she wants to do it. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. We don't know her motives yet. And again, I bet whenever they're going to reveal it, it's going to be like, oh, I was traumatized by my childhood drama crap. I had no father growing up. And that's it. That's why I do this stuff. That's why I want to destroy Azeroth. Cool. Okay, great. Off to the next villain. Yeah, some stories are a bit more complex, but it started with good intentions. Exactly. Because you have gray areas. Whenever you will operate in a gray area, you'll always have like a good villain or a good story. And even good, great heroes. Like good heroes, they always did questionable stuff. Right? Like they were never always these pure, beings like the hobbits in Lord of the Rings, for example. Like, Lord of the Rings is a very simplified story. So you have good characters who did bad things for the sake of, you know, I know, doing good in the world. And that raises a moral dilemmas within the viewer and the reader. And that's what makes them good.
Why I think the original War Within cinematic was so acclaimed compared to the Midnight one.
Yeah.
In it,
I mean, a really good example I can give you for that, by the way, is just the orcs. The orcs are just outcasts. They were literally chased away from their home world, and they had nothing to do. It's like, it is what it is, right? You can understand why they did some of the things they did. They can be seen as the aggressors, but at the same time, it's like, oh, they have nowhere else to go. And they literally died, lost limbs, ate each other for the sake of survival out there. It's harsh. Like, you can understand why they did that. Do you necessarily agree with what they did to all, I think it was the Draenei and stuff, but, mostly humans? Like, no, of course you don't have to agree with this, but you can understand their motives. Like, that's what I'm talking about.
Anduin's pain didn't need to be explained. You could see it in his face. You could hear it in his voice. You could feel it through the music. The story trusted that the audience would be able to understand without having it spelled out to them. That sort of subtlety is what Warcraft really needs to get back. And this doesn't just infect the broad stories as well. The writing within each scene has been a complete mess on this front as well. I could forgive some narrative discrepancies if Blizzard was building towards some sort of broader story arc, but there is no reason the dialogue within the stories at the moment needs to be so childishly and aggressively over-explained. Circling back to Anduin, there was a genuinely interesting moment in early War Within where he admits that, while dominated, part of him enjoyed causing pain and suffering to others. That is a really uncomfortable confession. It raises questions about guilt or agency, or whether domination only controlled his actions and exposed him to a side of himself that he didn't want to confront. And yet, that scene barely allowed any of that to exist before Faerun interjects with a lesson about mistakes and doubts not making him unworthy, and instead help and guide him forward. Anduin's like surprised and thoughtful, as though the moral framing hadn't occurred to him at any point. The issue isn't that he was comforted in the first place. The issue is that Blizzard introduced a difficult moral dilemma and then immediately told us how we should interpret it. A moment that could have carried genuine emotional depth was diffused before it had any room to breathe. I think a famous example as well is when the Aspects regained their power at the end of Immersion. Kalecgos comes together and states that we did it as a family, after which all of the other characters come together and start restating the same thing, that they united and they became whole and discovered that it was their shared cause that mattered more. This was all...
Wow, why are they talking about the feelings inside of a war game? What are we even doing here, man? It's so pathetic. My God.
Done instead of allowing the event...
Bro, also please redesign this ugly ass fucker. Holy shit, it's so laughable. What is this design? Who thought this was acceptable? What the hell am I looking at?
...themselves to demonstrate that theme. Blizzard instead placed it on a platter in front of the player, complete with complimentary pacifier and juice box, as though the audience was too stupid or childish to come to an independent conclusion. Returning to Tolkien's depictions of Sauron, at no point does he stand in front of the audience and announce that his obsession with order has become an obsession with control and domination. The story allows that.
No, if Blizzard, current day modern Blizzard, would have made Lord of the Rings, Sauron would have stand right next to the Tower of the Eye and be like, and Gandalf was behind him, and Sauron would have gone like, he's right behind me, is he? And then Gandalf would just take a swing from his staff or something and just clap his cheeks. That's what would have happened. No, maybe he would have had like some killer one-liner like, in the name of the light, I shall banish you to the nearest Starbucks.
To emerge throughout his history, his actions, and how he is depicted on the screen. Modern Warcraft writing would have Sauron stand in front of Mount Doom and explain exactly what the ring symbolizes or something like that. And that same lack of narrative restraint extends beyond just the dialogue and goes to how Blizzard actually frames the player. Blizzard needs to stop treating the player like the hero of Azeroth, or the champion, or the Mawwalker, or whatever variation or title is being carried that week. This style of framing simply does not work in a multiplayer game. I am not saying that every single player needs to become an unknown peasant, but the moment that the narrative began centering us as a pivotal character is the moment that the world itself began to feel smaller. I understand that this is a hole that the writing team has dug themselves over many years, and to be fair, I think they've improved somewhat on this front recently, but one of the main allures of Warcraft.
I mean, listen, improving on Shadowlands is not really a high bar to pass by, son. Like, it's not. Midnight Story is technically worse than, it's technically better than Shadowlands, yeah, but it doesn't say anything. It's like saying that I'm better than the average streamer because I have 5 viewers and the average has like 2. It's so stupid. Like, no, the story is trash. It's garbage, it's abhorrent. I really hope that The Last Titan would reset the universe, literally. Nuke Azeroth. That's what I would like to see. And Classic Plus would be the new standard, with new team leading the charge, and we have great stories again. But I know that I'm just coping out of my mind here. None of this is going to happen. Classic Plus is going to be filled with rainbows, and we all going to hold the power of friendship. It's going to be like a literal talent within the game.
Early on was that you were simply a denizen of the world. The entire story did not hinge upon us. We still mattered, like we fought in battles and we defeated some powerful enemies and we did influence the course of events, but we weren't a critical cog in the wheel. We were simply taking part in events that were much larger than ourselves. You contrast this with modern WoW, where every story is built around us. You are the brave and uniquely important hero. My level 90 Shadow Priest, which was created 2 days ago, is suddenly the savior of the entire world and personally trusted by every faction leader, and apparently the only person capable of saving Azeroth from the latest cosmic threat. It reminds me of why in Dungeons & Dragons, groups will often retire or reset their characters once they've reached a certain high level. At a certain point, the escalating power and importance of your character creates like a narrative power creep that is so extreme that the world doesn't really feel grounded anymore. Every new threat has to be bigger, every achievement has to be more impossible, like every character has to be more uniquely important than they were before. This is exactly what has happened to Warcraft over the years.
And that's why WoW should have died after Wrath of the Lich King, and everyone knows it. Everyone knows it. World of Warcraft did not make sense after the Cataclysm. The Cataclysm, I think, in my opinion, either shouldn't have happened at all, or maybe it should have happened like 1,000 years into the future, after the culmination of Wrath of the Lich King saga. I think that's what should have happened, and WoW should have had a serious reset. It should have been like World of Warcraft 2, and now we see the results of not doing that. The story has derailed entirely, and nothing makes sense anymore.
We no longer feel like adventurers participating in the history of Azeroth. We feel like an axis that the world revolves around. Blizzard, we do not want to be the main characters. Stop treating us like we are. I do want to give the writers the benefit of the doubt here. Bellular recently made a couple of really good videos arguing that the World Soul Saga may function as something of like a narrative cleanse, like tying off decades of loose ends and creating space for Warcraft's story to move in a new direction. So maybe what we're seeing is Blizzard attempting the almost impossible task of neatly resolving storylines that are spread across nearly 3 decades of lore. Perhaps some of the awkwardness is unavoidable, but that only explains the direction of the plot. It doesn't excuse the way that individual scenes are written. Even if Blizzard is trying to resolve decades of accumulated lore, the dialogue doesn't need to treat the player like a child. Characters don't need to explain every emotion and every theme and every moral resolution as though the audience is completely incapable of thinking for themselves. That's what concerns me the most. This is no longer an occasionally poorly written scene. It increasingly feels like a defining feature of Warcraft's modern narrative style. And no matter how cool or compelling the broader story becomes, even after this hypothetical reset, it will still fall flat if every meaningful moment is immediately explained and sanitized beyond recognition. Because the narrative immersion of the game is not some irrelevant bonus for lore nerds. It is a massive part of Warcraft's future success. I want Azeroth to remain a thriving world that I am still living in and competing within 20 years from now. But if Blizzard doesn't trust the audience in their interpretation of the story, or just trust that the world itself will carry the meaning, WoW may just continue functioning as a game, while gradually becoming a hollow shell of what made it so good in the first place.
It already became a hollow shell of what made it great in the first place. We're already there. Like, brother, the shattering happened. Like, we cannot take that back. We can't make the broken mirror whole again. It is what it is. You just have to dust off everything and start anew. And Classic Plus is that chance. Classic Plus can usher in that new era of WoW being great again. But the problem is, it's the same writers. Can we trust the same writers who drove retail into oblivion to make Classic Plus story good? Of course not. They're not going to do it, and that's why I'm not excited for Classic Plus, which is about to be announced in, like, what, 2 months from now? So, I don't trust any of this to be good. I just hope the world would be slow enough and big enough for me to explore and just have fun through the gameplay. But I'm not expecting anything from the story. I don't think their narrative is going to be good. I might be wrong about that. I hope that I do. Believe me, because I'm a true lore Andy. You know me, I can sit and quest all day and read every single scroll of text and book I can find lying around. But if the story won't be good, I just won't enjoy it as much. It is what it is. Yeah, they already blew up Dalaran. Great, now expand it to the entirety of Azeroth. And you can start with the damn gnomes. Chromie especially. Warcraft plot will end in a cutscene, will end with a rainbow showing hope. Man, that would be a good one. That would be a good one. Yeah, how can WoW be great again, like in peak times with this team and what they're doing behind the scenes? I know. Listen, I know, man. Like, I know. We're losing hope, but at this point, I'm just going to enjoy it for what it is. And if I can squeeze in a couple of months of enjoyment out of Classic Plus, I'll take it. But I really wish it would be like the good old days. But to be honest with you all, I think they should just come back to making RTS games. I think they should just make Warcraft 4. But again, that would require such a impressive team that actually knows what the hell they're doing.
Think that my ramblings will have any actual impact on the direction of the game itself? Probably not. I'm just a passionate nerd with a YouTube channel. But maybe if people make enough noise, Blizzard will eventually recognize the mistakes that they have been making in their narrative design and character dialogue for years now. Warcraft doesn't need to become relentlessly dark. It doesn't need more blood or misery or
It needs more blood, more misery, more dark. We need dark fantasy to make a comeback, boys. And I said it. We need more betrayals, we need more war in World of Warcraft, and we need to make it as apparent as possible. We need to emphasize it. We need to put it in the spotlight. That is important. So I actually kind of disagree with him there.
Moral ambiguity or anything like that. It simply needs to trust the audience again and trust the world itself to convey messages. Let moments breathe. Let characters have some mystery. Let the world feel larger than the player that's inhabiting it. A special thanks to all those who support the channel, including the Joy of Checks, Tobias, Yulem, Is This Real, and Oba.
Oh, that's the end of the video already, dude. Such a banger video. I love this guy content so much. Like, this dude is constantly being on point. I mean, he's such a great content creator. I'm gonna leave you guys a link so you can like his videos and subscribe to him. He's like truly phenomenal content creator. But yeah, absolutely. Like, everything, single thing with the narrative is trash. And I think I didn't spoke about his point right when he started the video of him being a strictly Mythic Plus player and still caring about the lore just goes to show how much it is important for players. You need to make sure that what you're doing inside of the world matters to you and it moves something, because Gabe Newell said it the best. The world need to be responding to your actions. You get a narcissistic injury whenever the world isn't responding to you. So you do need to feel like you're making a change. It doesn't have to be big. You don't need to be the champion of Azeroth, which unironically causes the exact opposite issue of you not doing anything because Azeroth is still in trouble every single day. But no, it can be the small stuff. The thing that was good about World of Warcraft is that you constantly help the little guy. You help someone with his farm. You help someone with kobold infestation. You helped someone in the dead mines. Even though Edwin Van Cleef did nothing wrong, you did help him. That's what made World of Warcraft great. And now we don't have this. We help mushroom people. We help bouncy mushroom people fight each other inside of an arena. How laughable it is. And I'm not even going to talk with you about Dragon Blight. Bro, all you did in Dragonflight was tend gardens and take selfies with whelps. How is that helping? How is that fun? It's stupid. It's stupid, it's sissy, and we don't want any of this in our World of Warcraft. But I guess Blizzard would never understand that.